I'll tell you if YouTube. I'll know in a second.
This okay? Yeah, it says it's live now on YouTube.
Does it?
It does.
Okay. I'm just about to see the picture. All right. Yeah, we're live on YouTube. Mark, we are live.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hey, what's up?
We're doing. Where did John go?
Yeah, he is.
He's right
There
there.
he goes. Oh, you know what? Let me fix my thing here. We got two people. All right, so here we are. We're doing Police Off the Cuff, and I guess this is the midday edition. So welcome to Police Off the Cuff midday edition. Well, it's afternoon. It's not midday. It's after. It's 3 p.m.
Dude, it's morning if you're a comic.
Yeah, there you go.
Three of us old bastards belong in a gin mill somewhere, you know.
Those days are long gone, my friend. Unfortunately.
I remember when you do a midnight, and then you go to a bar at 8 o'clock in the morning. I could never get used to that. I don't know how guys, because then you have to go home and sleep and just come right back to work, hungover. Right?
Dude, it was like that in comedy. I look back to the days when we would close the club down, and back in the day it was 4 o'clock. What is it, 2 now, right? 2 a.m. the bar's got to be closed, basically.
Oh, 4.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. Once the door was shut, the rule was you could keep on serving as long as the door was locked. And most days we watched the sun come up with a tequila in hand. Yeah, I know.
You know, speaking of that, I didn't get a chance to introduce you. You're a legend in comedy, a legendary. You are. You really are. You're. What was it? The Night of the Improv. That was your show, 1989.
There was a couple of them. Actually, the first TV show I ever did was called Comedy Tonight, right out of New York, and it was the old Metro Media Studios on 70-something Street. And it was such a new acquisition for the fledgling Fox network. I remember them scraping the letters of Metro Media off the glass door, and there was an artist hand painting Fox Studios. Remember when they used to hand paint glass? No, there was no stencils. He was hand painting Fox Studios back in 84, 85 when we were there. And Gabe Pressman, do you remember that name?
Yeah, I remember that guy, yeah.
So Gabe Pressman was walking through the lobby, and I guess he had his eye on the curb and didn't notice the door was closed because they had scraped the stencil off. It was just clean glass. The artist had yet to paint Fox Studios, and he was leaning in nose first toward the curb, and he came in a full stride and planted his face right against that closed glass door. And I'll never forget, it left a perfect, because he had makeup on, news makeup. It's like the makeup they use when they're making up a corpse. And the side of his nose and his lips and his profile was in a perfect image against the glass on the door. But that was the year that I did my first TV show. It was called Comedy Tonight at Metro Media, then Fox Studios. And a funny PS, when they started rerunning that show, I was driving through the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, and as I was pulling into the toll booth, I heard my voice coming out of the toll booth. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? And I pull in and I noticed the toll collector is watching a little black and white 13-inch TV, and it's a rerun with me. And I'm on stage on this little black and white television. The guy's counting $1 bills, and he's really focused on what he's doing. And I just look over, I see it's me, and I go, how do you like that show? And he goes, yeah, he's counting money. It's a good show. If it ain't busy, I get to what? And then he looks over and he goes, holy shit! Holy shit! You're that guy. You're the guy. And I said, yeah, I saw you through the TV. I wanted to see how you're doing. Go about my first experience.
Did we ever introduce who John is? Did we ever tell our audience his name?
No, but I was getting to that, and then we just kind of. I usually do like a little intro, a little build up, but we just jumped right in tonight.
Go ahead.
I gotta. It's my fault. I should have reined it in. But our guest today is John Maroney, legendary comedian. You probably I've seen you work on a number of occasions and worked with you. Had the honor, and I've never seen anybody better. And I've seen everybody. It doesn't matter the crowd. I mean, but for crying out loud, you were Jerry Seinfeld before Jerry Seinfeld.
I wouldn't call myself that, but
I mean, but just think about that time, though. I mean, I don't even know if Jerry was on TV yet in '84.
he started 2 years before me. I started in '78, and he started a couple of years before I did. But he was already when I was there, he was already pretty well respected and established as a comedian, and people already projecting great things for him. I did get to work with Eddie Murphy when he was only 17, which was really cool, because I remember a couple of the places like Dixon's White House, which was way out on Long Island, and of course the comic strip in New York City. At Dixon's, he used to have to wait outside to do his set because he wasn't 18 yet.
Well, he was one of those guys. He went to Nassau Community, I think. He was one of those.
Who, Eddie?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then I remember Richard Dixon's White House Inn. It was one
Correct.
of the comedy clubs on. I think it was in Merrick. I think. I'm not positive.
I believe it was a little further out than Merrick, but out by Huntington. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, Eddie, one of the first compliments from another comic I remember getting, I can't say I ever got, was from Eddie. One night I was at the comic strip, and he hadn't really hit big yet, but everybody knew he was going to be huge. And I walked in, and he was sitting in the comic strip up in the back. There's like a little step up in the back where you can sit, little alcove. And I walked past, and he was sitting with a couple of his friends, and I waved, and he waved back, and I overheard him say, he leaned into one of his friends, and he said, "That white boy there is funny." And I was like, that was it, man. I was like, that's it. Eddie Murphy thinks I'm funny. And it was one of those waypoints in comedy where you go, it's like when you're a Navy SEAL. A Navy SEAL, the last test, I believe, is when you get to work with these team members and they decide whether or not you're a Navy SEAL. It's like when other comics decide you're a comic, that's how you know you're a comic. It's kind of a fun initiation, actually.
You get the little He-Man Woman Haters Club signal. Remember that?
Yeah.
Little Rascals.
Yeah, the He-Man Woman Haters Club. Yeah, it's like other comics think you're a comic. That's when you're a comic. There's
John, when you told that story about pulling up to the toll booth and the guy was watching you on TV and he freaked out, I was tending bar one time at Pete's Tavern, and the song Monday, Monday by the Mamas and the Papas came on the jukebox. And John Phillips was at the bar, and he was singing along with it.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
This woman next to him says, "Wow, you have a pretty good voice." And she's listening. She goes, "In fact, you sound just like the record."
Oh,
she
that's
had
awesome.
I had no idea who he was. I thought it was so funny,
Where's Pete's Bar?
18th and Irving Place.
Oh, okay.
In Gramercy Park. Pete's Tavern. It's
Okay.
one of the oldest bars in the city.
Yeah, of course it is.
Oh, tell me you don't know that place. Would you forget you were there?
I probably stumbled into it once or twice in my life.
You did.
Yeah.
Hey,
I don't remember though.
Didn't we do Vegas together?
If it was, did
you and DeResta?
Yes, we did. We did Vegas. That's right. We did the Orleans Hotel. We did a big.
Wasn't it for Bereznoy?
Perez, yeah, Larry Bereznoy. It was the New York Tactical Officers Association West. We went out to Vegas. We did it here at the Turning Stone Casino in New York, and then we did one out west in Nevada. Yeah,
that was pretty good times right there.
That was really fun. Yeah, that was really good time. Cops are a good audience. Comics freak out. There's only been a handful of guys that didn't talk themselves into a bad set and were able to pull it off. And I mean, I'm not going to name names, but really good, strong comedians who saw 800 cops sitting in an audience and they went, But I told them, I said, listen, if you go out and you just grab these guys by the nut, and women, grab them by the private and swing them around, that's how they like to be treated. They like when you come out and you're aggressive, but they're an intimidating group of 800 to 1,000 cops staring at you going, yeah, who's this guy? Who's this guy? We had to close the bar down for him.
What do you think about now with comics that are cops, like Mark and myself, doing cop material when the public is in such a cop-hating mode?
That's a personal issue. I don't think anything's off limits or taboo. I think it's all about content, not form. And what I mean by that is, if you present anything in a funny way and do it in a non-threatening way. If you go up on stage and the audience trusts you, they know they don't have to fear you. You can touch on cancer, you can touch on police work, you can touch on racism, you can touch on all of the taboo subjects as long as they know they're safe with you. I mean, look at a guy like Pryor. Do you think anything today would be hands off to someone like that on stage?
Well, he could get canceled, just like so many other comics are being.
You could get canceled, and you may suffer the short-term effects, but long-term, you're going to, the cream always rises to the top in most businesses. And like even now, I heard Cops is back filming again, and Live PD is back again. I didn't think that was going to stay canceled forever. So I think if you go up and you're comfortable and confident with yourself, I think you can, anybody can, I want to say pull off. It sounds like you're getting away with something.
Yeah.
Perform in any way that suits you and also keeps the audience engaged in a way where most of them aren't going to walk out, but you know how it is. Somebody's always going to find a reason to be pissed off at you. So today.
Yeah.
So,
And, I after I retired, I went steady just doing the police material, and in environments like you said that could have been hostile, whatever, it never bothered me. Like I have what you talked about, the ability to present the material in a way that we're all going to have fun with it. But since this turn of events right now, I just don't want to do it because I don't have that many opportunities to get up on stage right now, and I don't want to waste them. I want to have fun with them.
right.
And I've written jokes in the meantime, and I'm excited about doing those. And right now, I'm not in the mood to talk about any. I just want to have fun with it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like those are my little 15 minutes. Because over here, what are we doing? I did somebody's backyard the other day. I'm talking about, this is his house, and in the back, he sets up tables and chairs. He has 3 shows a weekend, and it's
funny.
like 15 people. I did a rooftop. I did a drive-in with a cut when you're you can't hear them laughing, but they flick the lights. So
Oh yeah, they hit the high beams.
So I just don't want to waste those opportunities. God forbid, maybe even getting into a small discussion with somebody in their opinion. I just want to do some jokes, have some fun, and then when I feel like doing it, I'll do it again. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, that's probably the best attitude to take it. When I was hosting a radio show and people would come in and they would ask for guidance or direction, a lot of them were intimidated by the fact that we were going on the air, and they were not entertainers. And they said, well, tell what should we do? I said, no rules, but a couple of goals: funny, fun, friendly. First, go for the funny, otherwise keep it fun, but make sure it's friendly. We're not looking to provoke controversy, and we're here to have a good time. The end.
Yeah.
So if you can do that, you've done your job.
But look, even the top podcast in the country, Joe Rogan, they're trying to cancel his ass. I mean, how ridiculous. Let's see if he at all backpedals. I hope he doesn't.
He's a macho guy, Right now, we're trying to get rid of all the macho. That idea of a man.
Yeah.
Like just the presence of a man. John disappeared.
John,
dude, I'm sorry.
Sign on again.
What happened?
There you go. You're coming back. We can rebuild them. We have the technology. Dun, 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 dun.
Well, keep telling your story, Mark. He'll come back.
What was it again? Oh,
he's a macho man, Joe Rogan. And they don't
he's the epitome of a man right now. We're trying to feminize the country.
Yeah.
We're trying to get away from that alpha male in control thing. They want to put women in power. They want to put different genders in power for no other reason. Just,
they don't like the alpha male.
Yeah. So
specifically the alpha white male.
Yeah, and when they couldn't really, they pushed the bear.
Yeah.
Push the bear, constantly. And then when they can't get him, they go after his friends, the Chris D'Elia and the Brian Callahan. That's what they do. So.
Yeah.
listen, that's the way the world is right now.
I don't know. I think that the loudest dog, I don't know the expression, but the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and the people that complain the most, the 15 or 20%, are getting the stage right now, and 80% of the people just are just letting them do it. I don't know why that's happening right now.
Yeah, I don't get it either, man. I just I was watching this Al Madrigal. He's a great comedian, and he was doing a bit about somebody writing a restaurant complaint.
Yeah, go ahead, keep going. He's trying to get a hold of me on text.
Okay, and the guy's just reading the whole letter that the guy submitted for what's that site that you review restaurants and stuff. Like basically, who's got time for that? And he does such a wonderful job with it. So it's just like that, just complainers.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The people that complain the loudest, they're going to get pacified.
And Sebastian Maniscalco too has a bit about that. The salmon sucked. Let's get the fuck out of here. Like that's his whole complaint.
John's back. You're back. What the hell happened to you? What do you got, a 1860 computer? Oh no, your sound again is messed up.
Good. I'm using the same microphone I was before.
Yeah. Oh, what do you mean? You're using the mic?
I'm using the computer mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why you sound like a robot now. You didn't.
You want me to plug in the other one and see if?
No, now you sounded good. It must. Okay. It probably has to warm up like an old car.
Yeah. Because I put in plenty of charcoal. I don't know why it's not working. More lighter fluid.
You missed a lot what we were talking about. We started with Joe Rogan and why people are trying to cancel his ass.
Well, he's blanking out again. What the fuck is wrong with his thing? Damn it!
Keep going. Keep talking. He'll have to buy a new computer and come back.
Where does he live? He lives upstate, right? I think he's upstate, right?
He must be, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to start getting into, you know what I wanted to start asking him about. So I'll hold off because it's a surprise. But anyway, Van Halen, man, that's so horrible.
Yep.
I've been listening to a lot of Van Halen these last 2 days right now.
John's coming back. He's coming back. We hope it'll.
What a guitarist, man! A virtuoso.
Absolutely. I don't know, John. What are you using, a laptop or are you using an iPad? What are you using?
Using my laptop. It's a brand new laptop.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's your Wi-Fi. You're starting to come back, but slowly. It's like a caveman hitting two rocks together, trying to get a spark.
I don't know what's going on here.
Well, talk. We'll hear your audio at least. We can't see your video.
Testing 1 2 1 2. You can hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we just can't see you.
All right. You're gonna have to go without my lovely presence.
Well, you can talk to us. We just can't see you. Oh, now I can see. Oh no, well you're on delay probably on YouTube, because I have you on YouTube with my phone.
You don't think the YouTube's knocking him out, do you?
No.
They probably are.
I don't think so.
Well, anywho, what were we talking about?
We're talking about Joe Rogan and the fact that.
Oh no! After that, you know what I wanted to ask you about, John? So a lot of people don't know this, but you also work in law enforcement, don't you?
Yeah, I'm actually out on an injury right now. I had a shoulder replacement after went into a wall with a guy booking some drunken idiot, and I chipped a bone in my shoulder. So they did a full shoulder replacement. So I'm about 2 months into the recovery. So it's I'm actually feeling really good, better than I've ever felt. It's awesome.
I heard that that's really one of the hardest surgeries to recover from.
I heard that, but until it happened, I wasn't convinced. Yeah, it's pretty intense. But I should have done it sooner, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, I'm on the mend. It's all good now.
Yeah.
How does one of the best comedians in the world get a job as a cop?
Dude, that's something I always wanted to do, and I got the opportunity about 10 years ago. I was doing radio in upstate New York, and a case broke up near us, and we had the public information officer come in, and he was so funny. We hardly got to talk about this big case, and I said, dude, you got to come back, do this on a regular basis. So he came in once a week, and we called the segment Ask Officer Dave, and he saw that I really had this fondness for doing police work. And as we were talking about, I told him, yeah, I was going to be a cop before I became a comic. I actually got called for the NYPD. I took the test and got called for the academy and went through the whole process. And at the same time was working up to become a comic. I was a working comic with a day job, but I was still getting gigs. And then right at that tipping point where I had to make the call, comedy just blew up, and there wasn't even a choice at that point. It was like there was no looking back. But that was always my first passion, was to become a cop. So when he told me, he said, well, listen, I know a department up here that's looking for guys. I was 50. And I said, who the hell is going to hire a 50-year-old recruit? He said, oh, up here it's different. If you pass the physical requirements for the DCJS and a department will sponsor you, they'll put you through the academy. So I met the chief, and a year later I was driving fast with a gun.
Wow,
so it was great. I had the best of both worlds. It's a part-time gig. We're a full-time department with all part-time guys. So the other guys work in, they're troopers or park police. Not troopers, they don't allow that, but they're in some other kind of law enforcement, and they do this gig on the side.
So you're like the Steven Seagal of comedy, then.
I'm like the Jerry Seinfeld of police work.
You know how Steven Seagal has that, he's a cop too, right?
Yeah, I saw his show. I thought he was pretty good, actually, to tell you the truth.
I love the scene where he goes into that bar and they go, he's nothing without that badge and gun. He's nothing without that badge and gun, right? Goes,
dude, that was such a good movie. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're talking about the movie, but he had a TV show, Steven Seagal, where he was a cop.
And he
really was something law, Seagal Law or something. Was that it?
Yeah, he was like a sheriff or something like that.
Seagal Lawman or some. Yeah, he still is a sheriff. He's like the deputy chief, or maybe even a chief. I don't know. He's down in Louisiana, I think.
So you're up here and you're like over 50 right now. You're still rolling around with drunks and perps and getting your shoulder banged up. Wow, man, that's fucking crazy.
Well, I'm taking, the patrol up here is not like it is down there. I mean, that was an anomaly. We rarely go hands-on with everybody. That really was an unusual incident. It's the police work up here is mostly quality of life stuff. Domestics, a lot of vehicle and traffic stuff, a lot of nonviolent complaints. Every once in, you got to still be aware of what you're doing. But it's not like the city where you guys had to deal with, where you're getting. We never hold calls. For instance, there's never a time where what are you holding for, Central? Never. Maybe once or twice the whole time I've ever worked up here, and I've worked in 3 different departments. I worked in housing up in Troy. I work in the town I live in, and I work in another little town called Nassau. So the stuff. We're mostly proactive. We're out there making a show, talking to people. We know who the players are. It really is round up the usual suspects. When burglaries start happening in the area, or car larcenies or that kind of stuff, we pretty much know to within 2 or 3 people who it is. It's not like what you guys dealt with at all. And it's all single man patrols, and you'll be waiting for your backup sometimes for 15, 20 minutes. So you got to really be careful, and you really got to have good skill sets for talking people down.
You ever use your comedy skills to talk people down?
Dude, always. I try to tell other people. I demonstrate the approach. I'll show, if I'm field training somebody, Bill, they call it pattern interrupting. somebody has, they're all focused on whatever it is they want. And if you can get inside their feedback loop and interrupt it, it totally disrupts what they were focused on. And it makes them it breaks their pattern and their focus of their attention. And doing that with a joke is probably the best tool on your belt that you could bring into a nasty situation.
If you make someone laugh, they don't want to beat the shit out of you anymore, right?
Right. You can't laugh and think of something else at the same time.
Right.
It's impossible. It's like that old try to laugh and sneeze at once. You can't do it.
Right.
You can't laugh and be focused on hurting me or somebody else. It just doesn't happen. Can't happen.
Well, usually if you make someone laugh, they like you.
Yeah, it's
now they like you because you made them laugh.
Yeah, you're already connecting with them. Making a bond. I mean, you still have to be careful, and you still have to. Sometimes it does blow up in my face. I try to make a joke with somebody or make light of a situation, and the next thing I know, I'm explaining some kind of stupid civilian complaint. But most of the time, it's like being a comic. You get on stage and you figure out this will work, this won't. There's something inside of you intuitively that says, yeah, I can push this a little bit. Same thing on the street. When you're dealing with, a subject, you kind of get a vibe for how far you can go with them or not. Same thing.
I had a case like that where this guy shot and killed the bully on the block, and he was a one-legged guy, and he shot and killed the block bully. So the detective duty captain came to me and he says, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, the guy, guy shot and killed the guy." He goes, "What are they saying about it?" I go, "They're saying he doesn't have a leg to stand on." And he looked at me and he so much didn't want to laugh. Like he tried to keep a smile erupted on his head. It was John Rowe's brother, who was a captain, Penny Rowe. And he didn't want to laugh, but he tried to hold it in. He started laughing.
The guy that got me the gig, he was a homicide detective, and he was really the one thing I noticed about great police work. It has a parallel with great comedy in that you still have to be able to think nanosecond quick within an instant and make a decision and roll with it. You really need to lean into it, like when you're delivering, especially if you work in the crowd or something extemporaneously. You can't half step a comeback line. You have to feel it, know it, and lean into it. Well, the guy that got me this job was an old school homicide guy. And I said to him once, joking around, I said, "Hey, Dave, did you ever use your weapon in anger?" And he laughed at me. And he said, "My mind's my best weapon. I never use it in anger." And I thought that was such a great response. And he didn't flinch. He just right back and came back with that line. Yeah. So I ran into him a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago. And he's been off the job now forever. But he was telling me about a case that he had that he was called to testify in on. He was accused, or he had to testify in defense of some new law against shocking the consciousness of a subject. Have you heard about that?
No.
So he had this guy who they were pretty sure he shook this infant to death. It was his significant other's child. He was not the father. And they were pretty sure he was the only one home based on all of the trauma the child was displaying. He picked the kid up and shook it until it was unconscious. So they're interviewing him, and the child's being worked on at the hospital. And one of the uniform guys motioned for Dave to step out of the interview room. And Dave stepped out, and the uniform guy said, "The baby just died." Without flinching, Dave ran back in and he said to the suspect, he said, "Okay, the kid just flatlined, but the doctors say if they know how he went unconscious, they can probably save him." And the guy snapped and he went, "I shook the baby, I shook the baby." Wow. So on that, they got a conviction. And now years later, this new law stating you cannot shock the consciousness of a subject being interviewed. But I think he had already waived his rights, but I don't want to get into that. Right. Dave had to go and testify about shocking his consciousness. Now, that being said, I never, at least personally, I don't think I ever would have thought that quickly to pivot and take the angle, walk back into the interview and say, "The kid's still alive, but we can save him if you fess up." Right. That's as quick and as smart and as innovative as any comeback I've seen on stage in a comedy club with a comic. It's the same skill set, same content, different form.
Right. But you know something, John, where that comes from? That comes from doing thousands of interviews and thousands of
Okay.
just like you as a comic, what you do comes from thousands of hours of stage time, you know.
I would say it looks like that on the surface, but any comic in their most honest moment, I think would tell you it comes from somewhere beyond that, and we just take credit for it. And I'll give you, for instance, people used to ask me all the time, and it was a nice compliment, but they would say, how do you say that? How do you come up with that stuff so fast? And my answer was a question. How is it you don't? I see these lines, I see these responses in my mind's eye, and I just repeat them. So to me, it's analogous to complimenting a stereo speaker for the music coming out of it, going, hey, that's a great tune, and tapping the speaker on the top. I just am repeating what I hear. I can't say it's mine. It's like out there in the ethers, and I just plucked it down. I just I'll take the credit for standing up there and saying it, but I can't say that I owned it. Nah, I heard it and then just repeated it.
Right.
Yeah, I always gravitated when I was young and in class. I always gravitated towards the kid, the witty one, or the funny one. And I kind of sort of, I guess subconsciously I did it because I wanted to learn about timing and I wanted to learn about delivery, even from such a young age. All the friends that I had, it was always the funniest kid in class, And I was just, I guess that's what it was. Or even like the Irish kid in school, like the one with the wise ass answers all the time. You know what I'm saying? To me, it was always a challenge to be that, to always have a quick response. And also too, from, talking to girls and stuff like that. And that, which is another aspect of a quick mind, always having a snappy flirt line. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
in those two aspects, your mind has to be sharp. You have to always be thinking. And you, as a comedian, you train yourself to think funny. You're always thinking of and you, not only that, but you hate when you miss an opportunity. And you're like, fuck, I should have said that, man. It comes to you like a minute later and you realize you blew it. That's
Yeah.
the worst.
Yeah.
But it to me, if you're a wordsmith and you're and you're paying attention to a conversation, that's the one thing about I learned how to doing this stuff, and you probably know about it from the radio too, is that when you're listening a lot, the jokes just happen because people leave themselves wide open for it. They don't realize it. You know what I'm saying? So then you just become the one that, instead of trying to make everybody laugh all the time, you just lay in the cut and say something, a wise ass thing every once in a while.
Yeah, I'm just pointing it out. That's exactly, you're exactly right. I mean, comedy is a collaborative venture. I know for the first maybe even 2/3 of my career, I arrogated credit for being funny, and it's hard not to. I'm not blaming myself. It's hard not to go up there and say, yeah, look, not many people can go up on stage and stand in front of a crowd for an hour and make them laugh. Well, that's true. There's not many people that can do it for an hour and make them laugh and do it consistently. However, you can't do it without the crowd, and you can't do it without a crowd that's paying for it and wants to be there. It's not like you're going to go out, round up a bunch of people, coerce them or encourage them to sit down and make them laugh. It really is a collaborative venture. And that was another step in my career. The evolution as a comic was when I started to recognize, I really have to be more grateful for the audience and their participation, instead of just this is not a one-man show, even though it appears to be. It's more like a maestro in front of an orchestra. And people used to ask me that, how do you put your set together? So I feel like a chef, really, in a kitchen, and everyone in the audience is either a spice or some kind of ingredient. And I'm not sure what I'm going to cook, but whatever it is, I'm pretty sure you're going to like it.
Well, John, it's so interesting that you said that because even like for say a newer comic, like myself, I've only been doing it 6 years, which is a sort of a short period of time. But when you do an open mic and it's just other comics, that's got to be the most difficult audience you could ever perform in front of because they're trying not to laugh because they're afraid you might be funnier than them, and they're very critical, as you know. So maybe that's good training. But you can when you tell your jokes in front of a real audience, then you can actually tell whether they're funny or not.
Well, the one caveat I would add to that is if they're comics you don't know, there's a difference. If they're friends of yours that you're working with, and you're going up and there's times where I've played to the comics and completely ignored the audience and have done nothing but inside jokes, either because the audience was so bad or because the comics were just so good,
Yeah.
or I didn't care. But so it doesn't have to go just one way. If it's an open mic night of all strangers, yeah, that's a weird vibe because everybody's looking at you like they're just hoping that you fall down in front of the herd behind it.
Right.
I like that analogy about the orchestra and the conductor because I use that one often. That's exactly how I feel when I'm in the zone and basically just controlling the audience with every word, like a maestro. You're building it up, and then you drop the punchline, and you wait for the crackle of the laugh to work its way around the room. Then you pick it up again. You can go a little slower, a little faster. That's exactly how I feel when I'm up there and I'm cooking. That's the best feeling in the world. And the experiment I always like to do too is I always like to even pause it a little bit longer, take a little bit longer, before I give the tags, before I put the punchlines up. You know what I'm saying? Just to see how far I can stretch it, with a face, with a physical action, draw that out. Those are beautiful moments when you're fooling around with it like that.
Take the beat. Yeah, sometimes and it also helps when the crowd sucks. You slow down. You get to stretch 15 minutes into 25.
Yeah, well, that's a secret in it to itself because usually when the crowd sucks, you find yourself rushing through material just to find something that they like and go down that alley with take that track with them. And that's a mistake. That's an easy mistake to make.
Easy. Everybody makes it.
I like to, if I see that they're already going to suck, I'm all right. Yeah, you're going to suck. Well, guess what? So am I. Let me try this shit out. I got a whole bunch of these things I'm not sure about. You're going to suck anyway. So let's go down this alley together.
Let's go down this alley together.
Well, you look at a physical comedian like Sebastian Maniscalco, and if you listen to him without watching him, he's not that funny. But because he's so his physicality and he's so theatrical, he's funny as hell.
Yeah, that was like Robin. If you listened to Robin work, you'd be going, what's up with that guy? But then you watch him,
Right.
and it's like, oh my God. That's why, interestingly enough, Charlie Chaplin never thought that talkies would take off because he thought back then, how you going to translate every movie into a different language? So it was easy to change title cards. Title card writing used to be an Academy Award category. So when Talking Movies came out, he thought, you're only going to be able to play to English-speaking audiences. Don't be ridiculous. If you want your movies to play around the world, they have to be silent, and you have to have title cards. And so, that was his lesson to learn about sights and sounds.
Huh.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. He was a ballerina, really. That's what he was. The way he moved, that was ballet.
He was, yeah. He was. He really was.
He was way more than just a comic. That was beauty. That's the one with the skating and coming close to the edge. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, I could watch every single time he gets close to that edge. I get scared. And you know he's not going to go over. You know, it would kill the gag.
Those old Buster Keaton films too, where
Oh my God.
those one takes where the whole facade of the building would fall down and he was standing right in the window frame. That classic one where he pulls the water down into to refill the locomotive and he gets washed off the top of the tank. Did you ever see that one? Off the top of the locomotive. He actually broke his neck in that shot.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you know what's funny is that you can become, especially when you first start doing comedy, you can become like a stand-up comedy snob in a way, and not really appreciate the other forms of comedy, such as sketch, improv. It's its own thing. I did it. I'm not a big fan of improv, but you know, I'll still give it a, you know, it's fun sometimes, depending on who's doing it. But you know, we talk about that type of comedy, pratfalls. Um, you know, there's so many other different types of comedy as well. You know what I'm talking about? So especially
Yeah,
now with the
absolutely.
internet too. So I like to explore those as well.
I have a love-hate relationship with improv. Like Jerry Seinfeld had a great line about improv. He said, I want to see something that's finished.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that being said, I've seen some improv guys, the ones that that were really truly genius at it. Whose Line had some great guys.
Oh
There
yeah.
was
Well, that show is great. When you watch that show, you like improv.
Ryan Stiles. He's
Watch-
just, the guy's a gunslinger.
Yeah, when you watch there's some improv you watch and it's tough. It's tough. It's like for me with poetry too.
Poetry.
I'm not really good. I can't, you know, especially that urban poetry. Woof. You lose me real quick, man.
It was a good day. I didn't have to use my AK.
No, you know what I'm talking about, the poetry slam.
Yeah, I know.
That stuff. I have this bit that it's always in my head, and I do it rarely, but I don't know how I'm gonna die. I don't think anybody does really, unless you do heroin. But I know there's a bunch of ways I'm not gonna die, and one of them is like at the ballet. You know what I'm saying? Or at a poetry slam, or eating like getting choking on a leafy green vegetable because I don't eat vegetables either.
Or
You know,
skydiving.
like I have a list of it's about 100 things I know I'm not going to die, and it makes me feel comfortable. But one of them is at a poetry slam for sure.
At eating a leafy green vegetable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't eat vegetables too much, ever.
It's hard to get past the wheelchair. Hello. I'm sorry. Have I offended anyone? I'm sorry. DeResta was telling me
But
he did a gig the other day. He said he'd reached the pinnacle of political correctness. He was in a back room of some comedy club with a bunch of other comics, and there was this guy from Australia who just saw John go on and was complimenting him and going, "Oh, Mike, you look terrific." He goes, "I love that accent." He goes, "It sounds a little retarded, but I love it." So the guy steps out of the room, and this young woman who I guess worked for the club came walking in with a list, and she said, "I'm looking for so and so," and John says, "Oh, the Australian dude," and she looks at him dismissively and says, "He's much more than just that."
Oh, God.
what?
And it's like, oh, okay, all right, that's enough.
Oh, my
Where was this? At
God.
what club?
Yeah, John's gigs. It's like, yeah, I got 10 minutes at a pie shop out in Pasadena. It's $25 and all the pie that's left over from the tables you can eat. I did a podcast with him, his brother. You don't know Jimmy DeResta, huh?
Maybe I do. I think I met Jimmy first, actually.
Jimmy did 3
I met
shows.
Jimmy- listen,
What's
I
that?
met Jimmy first at the New York Comedy Club in like and when I first started doing comedy, and he told me about John, but I didn't meet John till many years later.
Well, for anyone who's listening, John DeResta is a comic who was a transit cop. Jimmy DeResta has his own YouTube channel with about 2 million followers, but they together did a couple of TV shows, one called Hammered, one called Dirty Money, and another Trash to Cash, where they upcycled stuff from the garbage and repurposed it and sold it. And it was fascinating to watch. but John was on the podcast with Jimmy the other day. Oh, damn it. What were we just talking about? It was a story. It's something that John did. Some politically incorrect thing that he tripped over. I forget what the hell it was, but oh well, just flew out my head. Free plug for Jimmy DeResta.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm happy that I remembered that I did know him. And if it comes back to you, just interrupt me. Hey, you know what I wanted to ask you? You do the cruise ships, and now what's going on with that?
I'm done with those, dude. I've had enough of them.
I mean,
they served
because that was before COVID. You quit.
I actually was on a ship. I went into New Orleans, into Mardi Gras, into New Orleans on Mardi Gras. And I had no idea at the time what was building. I got on the ship. We had 2 days out to sea. And I remember the third day, we had one show one night, one show another, and then I had a day off. And I just remember feeling really weak on that third day. And by about 6 o'clock that evening, it was game on. And I didn't know it was COVID, but obviously in retrospect, with everything, it was, it being a hot spot. And I heard about all these other people that got sick on the ship. I left the ship. I went to Vegas. I did my last show at the Laugh Factory on March 8th. I get off the stage. I went into the green room. A doorman came in and he said, "That's it." He said, "The MGM just laid off their tier 2 employees. The strip will be dark in a week." And I thought, oh, dude, relax. You stop being an alarmist. And the next day, March 9th, I came home, and it was like that scene in Get Smart, where all the doors close behind you. Boom, 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 boom.
But did you have COVID?
Yeah, I got it. I had it for 4 days.
Wow, that was quick though.
It came and went like a mild flu. It was interesting because I remember I was sitting on the bow of the ship with, fever. I had about 101, 102 fever. It would spike and then ebb and flow. But I remember sitting on the bow where only the crew could go, and I was wrapped up in a blanket, and we were heading back from Mexico. And I just remember looking up, and I thought, what a great way to be sick. I'm talking about being socially distanced. I was in the middle of the Gulf.
Yeah. How do they treat you on a cruise ship when you're talent? Do they treat you well or no?
They think they treat us well. To me, they could care less. We succeed in spite of the way they treat us. They think that we're like some kind of prima donnas, that all we do is work, 1 or 2 hours a night, or 1 or 2 shows a night, and we have the rest of the time to relax and lounge, and how dare we complain about anything. But they have no idea all of the skill sets in play to make that gig work. Right. Because they just put stuff in front of you that makes it more difficult, and little things that I don't know where they come up with stuff, but they'll do it and you find out about it when you're up on stage. It's like a tripwire. I remember one show, just to give you a small example, but you know what it's like when you're on stage. You want to be able to, you see the stage, you look at the parameters. It's like, okay, well, I've got 30 feet here to move around, 15 feet in one direction. I got a 6-foot thrust in front of me. Okay, and the crowd is sitting around. Nice. I was working the crowd. I went to I went to move to one side of the stage for whatever reason, and suddenly the mic comes flying. It was on a hard wire, comes flying out of my hand, and it just hit the ground. Boom! And I picked it back up, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm gonna have to ask for more cord for the next show. I made some joke, like whatever. Yeah. So I was kind of nailed down to this one spot on the stage, in this pretty decent sized stage. And I get off the stage for the next show, and I said to the showroom manager, I said, hey, can we get some more cord for the next show, or some extra length or something? And they said, oh, there's more cord. It's just tied up underneath the stage. And I said, what do you mean it's tied up? Whoever the guy was in charge of comedy prior to that, for some reason came up with this new rule that comics can only have 20 foot of cord. And I said, since when do you decide that? It's like the owner of a venue telling the musician, you have to stay to the right side of the stage. Like,
Right.
what do you care where I go with it? And it's all of those. I know it sounds like a small detail, but you put 20, 30, 40 of those together, and then you mix them up, and it's in play this day, but not the next day. This ship says it's all right. That
Right.
ship says it doesn't. They have no idea how they tweak the outcome of the show in all these little things. They don't, another comic said to me, comics need to be treated like thoroughbreds. And it's true. You want us to run the race, give us a nice stall, and wipe us down. It's we need a little extra encouragement if we're going to, do this job properly. You got to feel like you're being appreciated to go out there and want to do the job for them.
But do they put restrictions on you as to like what you can eat, where you can stay, where you can go, or
Yeah, there's all kinds of, they try to tell you you're a crew member and you're this and you're that, and you can't go here and you can't go there. And I've found that that's just like the police department. When one person fucks up, a rule comes down that straps everybody.
right.
But you also know that if you're smart, if you're savvy boss, you know that everyone's a little bit different. And you can say to somebody who's a little more aware, you're supposed to be back at noon, but I'll give you to 12:30. Just don't let anyone see you.
Right.
Just make sure you're on post for the scratch when I show up. You can just tell people stuff. It's the same thing with comedy. I mean, I was supposed to be, you're supposed to wear slacks whenever you leave the cabin. You're supposed to dress up on formal night. And only one time did I ever get called on it. And the guy was totally cool. I was wearing shorts in a passenger area. It was formal night. I was sitting by myself reading a book. And the guy came over. He was the hotel director. It's his job, but he was totally cool. He said, "Hey, John, I'm sorry to bother you, but it is formal night. And you're supposed to, you're not supposed to be wearing shorts up here." And I said, "Listen, no problem." I went down to my cabin and I changed, but he was cool and I was cool. But there was one other time I almost lost my shit on some guy, cruise director, who saw me sitting after the show. It was already midnight. Show was over. And I was just sitting at the bar, just unwinding, and I had shorts on. And he stopped by and he gave me the real nasty look. And he went, "Excuse me, this just doesn't work." And I was like, oh my God. I had to choke back my response and just leave,
Yeah. This doesn't work.
"Excuse me, this doesn't work." I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, it's almost like a waste to even bring shorts with you. that way you don't do it.
No, dude, I live in shorts. Well, when I was doing the ships, I loved it. I mean, again, you put yourself on the radar. You know how it is. If you fly low and you don't cause trouble, you rarely get caught up in their nonsense. And when you do what you're supposed to do. You go, "Sorry, my bad. I won't do it again." And of course you're going to do it again, but that's what you got to say.
Yeah. I think cruise ships work in a way for comedians too, because by the time you get to the point where you're going to do cruise ships, you realize it's become your main source of income.
Yeah, it's over at that point.
No, but I'm saying it's your main source of income, and you're not going to fuck up your job. It's not like you're getting these young comics who are wild and looking to make a fucking name for themselves, and they're breaking shit up. They want to be rock stars / comedian. No, this is a guy who's doing this for a living.
Yeah, I think you'd be surprised.
Oh, really?
Oh, dude. There's so many guys I work with that have shot themselves in the foot over and over and over again. Yeah, I mean, you just know you don't hit on the passengers. You don't get drunk in public areas. You don't even get drunk in the crew areas. You stay to yourself. And there are guys that they just can't help them. It's like a sickness. You watch them, and they're not kids either. I'm not going to name names. That these are grown men in their 40s. Some of them in their pushing 50, and they're still getting hammered and chasing tail and being high on their on the screen. And it's like I just blend, just go way back.
I thought you were going to say they get high on their own supply. I was like,
they do that too. Yeah.
What do you mean the screen?
What's that?
What do you mean they get high on the screen? You talking about the cameras?
No, the radar screen. Well, the cameras too. Yeah, everything's visible now. They have everything wired for sight and sound. So you can barely go anywhere on the ship without somebody being able to see you, and they want comics to wear name tags. And I I refused to wear them. The only time I would wear them would be I would put my ID tag, not my name tag. I put my ID tag on my shirt for security reasons, but I'm not wearing a name tag.
Right.
You
So
know,
what made you think that you've had enough of doing cruise ships? What was the straw that broke the camel's back?
my health. I was getting really resentful and tired. It was the same actors, same lines, but different scenery every day. You know, it was just a grind. It really became not just not fun to do anymore. It was starting to wear me out. I just had enough of it.
Yeah, you've done it for years, so you got that out of your system.
It is out of my system. I mean, I can't say no that I would never do comedy again, but not at the pace that I was doing it. I'm not living out of a suitcase anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you did it for years. I mean, I could see where it's okay. It's all right. I could do something else.
Yes, I've made it. I've earned the house I'm sitting in, the car I own, I paid for with jokes.
Yeah, I look around my place and sometimes if I'm not feeling that great, I say, well, you know what? This couch, that TV, that's from this commercial. I got this from this. You know, you start looking at all the money that you made from from the work that you've done, and that's what kind of keeps you sane a little bit anyway.
Well, it's not even, the money is a side effect. I think about the experience of being on stage, which only a handful of people really know what it's like to be up on a stage and rocking a hot crowd. And that's a real privilege to be able to stand up there and be able to do that. And, thank God for this country, because maybe with the exception of Canada or England, and they're definitely behind in that regard. I'm not putting them down, but to get on stage and to be able to express yourself creatively without any, boundaries is really an amazing experience. It's incredible.
Maybe it was an experience. Just we'll see what happens now.
Well, I mean, the principle of it is there, though. To stand up on stage is probably one of the purest forms of entertainment, stand-up comedy, because you, with the exception of lighting and sound to some degree, you do everything. You write, produce, edit, direct, perform. You do it all. And I can't think of another art form that gives you, or another country or another place, even New York City and LA are pretty unique in that regard, Chicago, Boston, to be able to just go up with nothing in mind per se, and to create an hour of entertainment. It's exhilarating. It's addicting. I don't know, I absolutely was addicted to it, without a doubt was addicted to it.
Yeah, I mean, but you got to be doing something else though, creatively, because that's the type of person you are. I mean, have you found that other outlet yet?
I don't have to be doing something else creatively. I do enjoy it. I found somebody asked me when I quit drinking, they said, what was the turning point for you? And I said, well, I went from being in recovery to being in discovery. And he said, what does that mean? And I said, well, nobody wants to quit drinking. They want to start living. So to try to be creative all the time, nobody's creative all the time. And although it's fun, it's a fun experience. What I found is I can be content all the time. And I didn't know that. I was always chasing contentment behind a microphone. I was looking for the next big, I was looking for the next hot crowd. I was looking for the next bit I could put in. I was looking for the next show I was going to perform on or host. I mean, I heard Jerry Seinfeld in an interview with Howard Stern, and Howard's a brilliant interviewer. And he said he was teasing Jerry about his lifestyle. I wish I was you. I wish I had this. I wish I had that. And Jerry it was one of the first times I really saw him like in a moment. And he had a brilliant observation. He said, you really think I have some kind of, unicorn life? And Jerry said, yeah, look at you. He goes, yeah, look at me. He said, I'm a father. He said, I'm a husband. I have responsibilities to other family. He said, I have a company with employees. He said, I have a career. He goes, and on top of that, he said, I'm a comic. He said, so my day is filled, consumed, if you will, We're thinking about punchlines, premises, setups, tags, this and that. And he says, comedy is simply a torture that I'm comfortable with. And that just flattened me, because I realized that for years, comedy was a torture I was being comfortable with. And now that comedy for me, it seems, is in the rearview mirror, I had to find something else to be comfortable with, to be content with. And so I've learned to be content without anything. I've learned to just be content for that sake alone. And that trumps, pardon the pun, that tops anything that I've ever done as a comic, anything I've ever done as a cop, anything I've ever done as a person. Just learning to just be good with whatever's coming down the pike. That's huge, huge, because then you don't have to worry about the next gig or the next paycheck or the next anything. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, if when in the beginning of COVID, I was thinking, if this is what it's going to be like, doing Zoom shows, I was like, I'm okay. I might not want to do this anymore, But that's only because we have the podcast. That's a creative outlet for me. I'm also an actor, so if then I'm like, I'll just dive more into acting. But if you put a paper and pen in front of me, I'll start drawing. So I'm always doing something creative, writing something. But I'd have to keep doing something. Like I couldn't stand up. It's okay if it left. I did it for 23 years. I'm okay, But I can't not do nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, you can't not do nothing. I agree. I mean, you look at a guy like Stephen Hawking, who was in that, broken down scuba suit for, more than half of his life. He was one of the most prolific creators of our generation. And yeah, you'll channel it into something else. When I finished radio, I found creative ways to do police work. When I got bored with myself, I would go out and intentionally, create things to do in uniform that I found fun. And people were like, hey, I never saw a cop do that before. And I was like, that was the first time I ever saw it too. And it was totally within my purview. But yeah, I agree. The creativity will find its form outwardly. My thing was, I put restrictions on it. It had to be on a stage. It had to be as a quote unquote comic. And that was my mistake. I tried to limit it, and you can't limit creativity. It'll just express itself in ways you wouldn't even imagine if you let it.
Yeah, I think we're fortunate in being in New York City, or at least on the East Coast over here, that you have so many other things that you can do. If you're a comedian, you can very easily be getting parts on TV. You can, Bill, he does a lot of modeling work. Tell him about, he's a foot model. He has really nice feet.
Yeah. He models socks on the radio.
Yeah.
No, but he models, and he's got a good look. Hey, what's the talent that you got, John, that most people wouldn't know? You can dance pretty good. I was watching the video that you have on YouTube there. You come out on stage to Happy.
Yeah. I can definitely move, baby.
Yeah, that was pretty good. So who sang that? Come along.
Pharrell.
Yeah. If you're happy, yeah.
You know what's funny? That was a last minute ad lib, if you will. I remember that tape. I had it in mind to make that a tape for actually cruises. They needed a clean 30-minute set to show to the buyers. And I walked in. It was at Governor's, and the place was packed. And I was listening to that song on the way to the club. And at the very last minute, the Ginny, who was running the club that night at Governor's, said, what do you want for intro music? And I said, I don't care, just something upbeat. And then just as I was heading backstage, I went, I like that song by Pharrell. And I ran back out and I said, can you play Happy? And she goes, I just loaded up something else from my Pandora or whatever it was. I went, okay, whatever. And then she went, I'm sorry, I'm pregnant. I'll play Happy for you. And I said, all right. So when the song started playing, I came out on stage. I went, that was it. It worked out perfectly. It was just that was the first time I ever did it, and it worked out great.
So even though it's so many years of doing cruises, you're still putting together new tapes so other people can see them, huh?
No, that was 5 years ago. So I'm not. I'm not putting anything new together as far as comedy is concerned at the moment. I'm doing stuff like this. I'm jumping on other
I'm
people's.
talking about, like, even though you were doing the cruises forever, there's always another level of cruises that you can reach, right?
You mean literal level of
No,
cruises? Like,
I'm just saying, because you said you were you're already doing cruises and you're putting together a tape for another set of cruises, right?
no, that was in regard to that story. I'm not putting together any tapes for
No,
anything.
forget it. My point is that I thought that, because I could imagine at some point you're doing, private gigs for small groups of rich people on their boats and stuff like that. You ever do stuff like that?
I've not done them, but I've heard comics that do, like some of those high-end cruises, like Crystal Seabourn. They're really like minimum passage. Minimum is $10,000 a person, and there's a butler for every 3 cabins, and all the meals are cooked to order. And it's in your contract. You have to go out and intermingle or commingle with the passengers. You have to wear a jacket every time you leave your cabin, but it's white glove service. That being said, I'm told they're the most arrogant, condescending crowds you could ever play to. And there's a handful of guys that do it. The money's phenomenal, but you pay me $5-7 grand a week to go out and basically bomb for a bunch of snobs. I don't know how long that's going to stay good.
Yeah.
I'll take 2, please.
But John, were you saying before? Maybe I misheard you, that you're basically done with comedy, or you're just going to do
That's
it?
how I could be wrong. My vibe is it's over, and not so much because I feel like it's done, which I do. I just think for me in my lifetime, I don't see this coming back, gearing back up for at least another 2 years, to where you can make a living at it.
Right.
It's what you'll be able to poke around and jump on stage and go here or go there, but to make a living at it, I'm thinking 2, maybe 3 years, and by then I'm done.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a realistic way of. That's the best way I've heard it put. Poking around at it, because right now, if you're down here in the city, you're not even really poking. You could poke a lot more than what we're doing, and it could build up to that. But to get back to where it's a staple of your income or your primary source, yeah, like you said, people are gonna have to come back in like 2 years, man. 3 years.
Yeah. The whole thing caved in on itself, and I think these people that are rushing out there and doing these Zoom shows and doing this and that, that's all well and good. But, when life tells you to take a big time out and you don't listen, I think that doesn't serve you. I see a lot of guys trying to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Stand-up comedy is an art that really, in my opinion, it needs the comedian, a good light, good sound system, and Kippadata once said, a paying audience, people that have put a value on their time and their money and their effort to be there. It needs those components. It's like the heat triangle, heat, oxygen, and what's the third one? Huh?
Carbon dioxide.
Heat.
That was photosynthesis, I think.
No, the heat triangle. It's heat, oxygen, and fuel.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
Right, fuel. So it's that's the dodecahedron of comedy. You need those elements to make it to work. Because the prime example was the ships. That you did not have a paying audience per se. They paid for the ship, and then they put you in between karaoke and bingo, and expect them to respect the art. And it wasn't like that.
Right, that's tough.
Yeah, that's so interesting what you're saying. Like we talked about Seinfeld before. He said that under the best of circumstances, stand-up comedy is a very difficult thing to pull off. You got the light, you got the stage, you got a paying audience that's there to see stand-up comedy.
Right.
You got a sound system that works. The stage is in the center room, everything that's perfect. But like, as you know, people can't help themselves. Situations, they start picking away little pieces of it. And this is, I'm talking about past gigs. The gig that's at the VFW. That's still good, but you know what? It's not a comedy club. Uh, the lighting's not great. The sound system sucks, but we're good. It was a great show, whatever. But now what they're asking you to do, it's so far removed from what stand-up comedy is
Right.
that it's a whole other thing now. You're basically looking into a camera and telling jokes for a camera, which it's not going to last too long. I mean, it's going to evolve into something else if you really, really, really want to stay with it.
Yeah, don't call it stand-up comedy then. It's something else, but I wouldn't call it stand-up. But to be, you guys know, when you have a real comedy club, a paying audience, and good lights, good sound, and a mic and a sturdy mic, there is something about that combination that literally provides magic. It's magic, and you can't do it via Skype or Zoom or anything else. You might hit it, you might scratch it occasionally, but you have to be immersed in it. That whole sense of community. There's like a community with an audience when it's there. There's the one thing about a comedy club is, and it was one of the few places left, in my opinion, in the world where a group of people could gather and agree upon one thing. And, you'd go up and you go, the MC would typically say, does everyone want to have a good time? You'd rarely see a dissenter in that rank and file. You'd rarely see someone go, I want this to suck, It was one of the few real, democratic experiences you could have where you go, okay, we're all going to agree on this, right? We're here to have fun, right? And for the most part, you were the leader of that. Of that party, of the fun party. It was
That's
great.
one of the things, when you become like a veteran comic. When I was new, I remember mistakenly being by the entrance of the club and listening to audience filling in and the stupid things they'd be saying to each other, or if I peeked in and it looked like a little loud before the show or something. I don't know what. It's just, you're finding excuses that this might not work, where it's going to work. It's going to be great. Don't worry about it. Just let me get up there. That's my attitude for the last 10 years. It's going to be fine. Wait till I get up there. It's going to be great. And I think that's you can very easily let the room dictate you, unless you've grown into somebody that is so comfortable being in front of a room full of strangers, and it's an odd thing. I mean,
it's hard as a human being not to project your fears onto other. I would say it's impossible, actually, as a human being. You can ultimately become aware of it and do it less and less, but it's impossible not to project your fears onto things. And for comics in particular, they project their fears onto everything. And it's usually other comics, the audience, the MC. I remember a guy once who said to me, I said, what do you want for an intro? He said, I don't care, make something up. So I went up on stage and I gave this guy an intro. It was probably 2 minutes long. And I said, he's a, guild nominated writer. He'll gonna be in the next Chris Rock movie. He's co-starring with this. It was all just made up. So the guy goes out and he tanks. He came backstage screaming at me that I gave him too good of an intro. He actually said to me, I couldn't follow my intro. And I just thought, dude,
we got to close out because we're way over an hour, but I'll give you a good intro story. Tony Woods used to do this intro. He used to go to the audience. How many people in here have watched Def Comedy Jam? Woo! How many people here watch Showtime's Night at the Apollo? Woo! How many people here watch the Tonight Show? Woo! The next comic coming up on stage, he watches those same exact shows, folks.
That's great.
Oh, he used to kill every single time.
There's something about misdirection that works every fucking time. If it's done well, it works every time.
Wait a minute, the comic didn't become offended and sue him and go to a safe space? Dude, I got it. Hold on, I got it. We open up a comedy club called The Safe Space. What do you think?
Yeah, that would be good. And we just make it like a crazy place, like the last stop for free speech.
Comedy Safe Space. Everyone gets a hug as they come in.
Yeah. As soon as you remember that place that was in Brooklyn, I think it was warm beer, lousy food.
Yeah, the Crazy Country Club.
Yeah.
Remember how they used to make fun of you? They used to come to your table.
Oh,
Imagine
yeah.
at a place like that now.
Oh, my God. Forget about it. Yeah.
Like they'd come up to your table and go, how old are you? Jeez, what the hell?
Yeah, get some rest.
Yeah.
How many months pregnant are you? I'm not pregnant. You fat bitch.
Yeah. And then the host would come out and you couldn't have those places anymore. I wouldn't be surprised now Halloween is coming that there's people they're gonna make complaints because they really got scared when they went to the haunted house. You know?
I'm gonna dress up so benignly that you're gonna have to guess my gender.
I don't
And then
think
when
we
you
said it
don't-
was Village comedy, Halloween parade this year.
No, wait, nope.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well,
You know something? Want to hear a story about that? I went to that. I was working right after 9/11, and I went to the West Village Halloween parade, and it was like horrible. It was like a ghost town, and for a different reason, obviously. The whole, the world was not in the mood for Halloween after 9/11. You know.
I worked that too, and I hooked up with the people that cut my hair for years, but that was that night, and that was actually a pretty good night for me all the way around. That was a pretty good night. I mean, I miss those days where uniform that the blue magnet.
Yeah.
The blue mag. Well, I bet it was.
I used
yeah,
to love working things that I would enjoy going to if I wasn't working.
yeah. I didn't like the fact that I was working.
It was nice to get paid for doing something that you enjoyed.
It made me crazy though, watching other people have fun and not really being able to just relax. But I saw a lot of things I wouldn't have seen. I wouldn't have been at this place or ever gone to it if I didn't have to work it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was cool. Anyway, we're almost at an hour and 20. What do you think, Bill?
I just want to plug. Yeah, I want to plug something. Well, obviously, Mark and I have our Patreon, we're starting to build it up. We're adding like one person. We're averaging like one person a week. We're up to almost 29 people. We've been doing it for 2 months, but it's starting to pick up a little bit. And Mark has a show called One on One with Mark DeMeo that he's interviewing some people. So far, mostly comics. And I have a show called Real Crime Episodes. And this Wednesday, I have one of my most amazing guests that I've had so far. And her name is Barbara Butcher. And she's a retired chief medical legal investigator for the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. And Barbara and I are going to talk about the Gilgo serial killer homicides out on Long Island. And
so tune in, kids.
Yeah, well, we're not going to be able to solve this case in an hour, but she's going to give her thoughts about it. She's a scientist, obviously, so she's going to talk a lot about DNA and evidence and all of that stuff. So it should be a really interesting show. So all you people out there, we have 3 tiers. $7 is the bucket. $9 is polish my rack. And the premier tier is dipped in butter, and that's $11 a month. So dip them in butter for $11 a month. Join our Patreon.
Are you talking about DeMeo's night at the gay Halloween parade?
Yeah, he dipped them in butter that night.
Dipped them in butter. Polish my rack. It's the blue magnet. That's your new superhero logo, blue magnet.
And what's funny is that I had thought of you popped in my head. This is funny. This is the way comedy gigs work out too, for me anyway. I'll get like 3 gigs in one day, and it's just something about the universe. There's a lot of everybody's thinking about you at the same time. Because I reached out to you, John, and I asked you to be on the podcast, and then Bill reaches out to me like 10, 20 minutes later and goes, "Hey, I just asked John Maroney to be on the podcast," and I was like, "I just asked him 10 minutes ago."
That's crazy, right?
Yeah, and we didn't talk before that. It's just
Oh.
something that it's just we were both thinking about you at the same time. So, you mentioned that gay thing. Maybe if you really, maybe this is meant to be like a threesome or something.
Well, it's funny you should say that because as Bill reached out to me and said, did Mark ask you about the podcast? I said to him, I can't work with DeMeo. And so he knew that going in. The
See how it
blue
all
magnet.
Hey, Bill, were you wearing your pants when you thought about John Maroney as a guest?
I was.
Were you wearing your bike shorts?
I used to say that the chief's little suck boy used to carry around alcohol prep pads so he could polish the boss's undercarriage.
So anyway, I'm gonna do DeMeo in uniform at the gay Halloween parade. Yes, so I need somebody to do my hair. It's like I got to keep the blue magnet looking good.
He sounds a little bit like Vinny Barbarino. Remember him?
Oh,
It's
yeah,
amazing, it's just wild. It's just I can smoke pot now.
Oh man, you could probably do it forever, and I keep laughing every time. But you were
It's
a
still
gentleman.
funny. You gotta laugh, guy. You gotta laugh. It's funny, it's just funny. It's funny.
Good. What do you think? He does me good, right, Bill?
Does it great.
I think you're the best one.
Does it great.
I think
I
you're
don't,
the
want, I
best
don't
one.
want him to quit comedy, man. He can't do it. He can't
He's not going to quit. He'll be back. But he does. You did bring up a really interesting point. Is that you're going to be playing around, bullshitting, poking around. The truth is, it's going to be gone for 2 years, possibly maybe 3, before you can start making a living at it. So you got to figure out what else you're going to do in the meantime. Otherwise, you're a fool.
Well, I got 2 cop gigs, and you don't. You want
Well,
to get back on a job? I know somebody up here. You want to get on a job
How far out of you are from the city? I mean, from the Bronx?
by ambulance?
No. No. How far upstate are you?
If I go just to the Bronx, I'm 90 minutes.
Wow, you're up
Yeah, that's pretty far. I have to like.
Both you, 90 minutes from the Bronx. Hey, forget about me.
We're depending on people dipping them in butter for us to get paid. We just got our first Patreon payout, right, Mark?
Yeah. Hey, listen.
That's pretty neat, right?
I told Bill, man. I said it's there's a lot of it's an odd thing. A lot of people making money, or you think they are. Nobody really knows how much they're making, but the truth is, you gotta build it up. You know what I'm saying? You got to start from somewhere, and you just do the work. It's just like stand up. Before you know it, you're booked every weekend, but you can't just complain about it all the time. You got to do the work.
Jay Leno used to say, for people who would criticize comics, working comics, trying to make it, quote unquote, in the business, or at least get to a point where they could make a living. Jay said, and I agree, he said, you have to look at comedy like any educational endeavor. 4 years of a college degree is the equivalent of you're paying your dues as a comic. If after you graduate high school and you are gainfully employed and you spend 4 years diligently working at your craft and you're good at it, or you're at least, you should be doing it, you can make you could back then, you could make a living, as a very comfortable living, as a stand-up comedian.
Yeah,
it takes about 4 years, 4 to 5 years for the average person to put together an act, the average comic, working constantly. Yeah,
of course. But then, like you said, there's a million comics now, and it's a little bit different than back then. It's not the boom. It could take you. I always tell people they'll jump at the fact if I told a comic I'll give you $1,000 a week for your comedy, 50 weeks out of the year, they would jump at it in a heartbeat. What is that? That's $50,000 a year. No health insurance. It's nothing. It's peanuts. It's fucking garbage. I'm not even talking about paying taxes on that. So the reality is it takes a while, and there's only a tiny, small group of people that actually make the big money that everybody's talking about. So
agree. My niece is going through medical school right now, and she was blown away when I told her this, because obviously she sees what, how much money and effort it takes. But there are fewer professional stand-up comedians working than there are professional neurosurgeons working. There's more neurosurgeons that earn a living in this country than there are professional stand-up comedians. Think about that, and what you have to go through to become a neurosurgeon. Yeah. Now extrapolate that out and imagine what it takes to be a professional stand-up comedian. It's such a hard job. Forget the fact that you might be funny. All the other skill sets that you have to learn along the way that not many people tell you about are almost as hard as learning how to get on stage in front of a crowd of strangers and make them laugh. They're almost as hard.
And everybody used to have that joke about, I get up at noon and right. I don't do nothing all day. Listen, that comic hasn't been around for a decade. If that's the type of person you want to be, you're never going to be anything in this business. Everybody's got a podcast. They got a web series. They got a blog, a vlog that they write. They're on social media all day. They're going out auditions. They're writing screenplays. I mean, we're talking about people, in the competitive market like New York, that this is what they do. If you're not doing that, you can do comedy at night, but you have to do all that other stuff too, because you don't know what's going to hit. You don't know what's going to hit. And nope. That pilot that you sell, that's going to be able to pay your rent for a couple of months so you can do more comedy, Anywho.
Well, good luck, boys.
We'd love to have you on again, John.
All right.
Hey, John, it's a good thing though we got pensions, so that's how we beat the system.
I'm dipping my butter as we speak.
Your boy.
You gotta dip them in butter. Right. That's the only way. It's good luck too.
All right.
Bill, I'm gonna take a nap and I'll see you in a couple hours. We're playing a double-headed today, John.
All right. Take care.
You're a gentleman. I miss you, and you're the best, brother.
All right. So long.